One, two, three.
Welcome to Scéalta.
Thank
My
you.
name is Joe Austin. And my guest tonight, I suspect most people will know her or know of her, Jane Adams. And let me just explain this to get this out of the road. No, she's not Jerry Adams' daughter. She's not even Jerry Adams' niece. She's too good looking for any of those things. So she's Jane Adams, who is Jane Adams. So Jane, welcome to Scéalta.
Thank you.
And I know that it's a bit of a catch for Scéalta to get you to do interviews because you're really not into that part of the public domain. So thank you.
No problem.
I suppose if you're looking at Jane, there's a number of things that kind of jump to mind. Not least of all, and to begin with, your sporting activity. So, sporting hero for many people. If I was to list all the things that you have got, that you've won, the accolades that you've gotten, they would be here all day. I asked someone last night, and I won't tell you whom, about it, and they said, make sure she tells you, make sure she reminds you that she began her sporting life in St. Malachy's,
True.
not in the Rossa. So tell me a wee bit about your sporting career.
Okay, so first of all, I would never ever forget St. Malachy's because first of all, Sean Campbell, who was a teacher in St. Malachy's, lived facing us in Glengolan. And I think he was giving my mummy and daddy a break on a Saturday. So he said, I'll take the girls along with my girls to Camogie. And thank God that he did, because once I took a hurl into my hand, that was me hooked, Joe. So I pride myself on knowing that it came from St. Malachy's. That's where I started my career and my love for Camogie. So playing with St. Malachy's and under Sean Campbell, even if it was by default, was one of the best things that I was ever able to do.
Someone who would be more knowledgeable of the GAA, much more knowledgeable of the GAA and of the sport, said that you were the best pair of hands ever to be wrapped around a hurl. And that seems to be, the pattern that anyone I speak to about you. And I jokingly was asking someone else, were you a tough player? And they said no, that she wasn't. She was a skilled player, and that's a rarity in any sport. So skill is rarer than toughness. Did you know from an early age that you were brilliant, good?
No, I didn't know it was. I knew it was good because as soon as I started playing, I just loved it. I would go to bed and dream about it. I would wake up in the morning and know that I had Camogie on. Couldn't wait to get out of bed to go. But just as soon as I started playing, I really, really enjoyed it. And a wee story that my daddy, he knew that we were playing Camogie and he hadn't been to any of the matches. And my mummy said to him, come on, go to one of these matches. So it was in the Falls Park and I was playing for St. Malachy's. I can't remember who we were playing against. And I had the ball. My daddy came to watch the match. I had the ball and I flicked it over a wee girl's head. And I was only probably 11 or 12 at the time and caught it at the other side. And I think I scored a point. Now, it was only 12 aside and we were all only kids. But once he saw me doing that and he was like, oh, she's good. I'll be at the rest of these matches. So I think whenever I started playing, I loved it that much. I sort of experimented. So I liked to experiment how fast I could run while I was on the run picking up the ball. I liked to experiment if I was stuck between two players that I could get the ball before them and stuff. So I think it was all down to experimenting, and the more experimenting I did, more training I did, then I just came into my own, I suppose.
Was there a single individual player who, and I know your father, I have to say, in fairness, was a very, very good boxer.
Yeah.
I don't believe the story that he beat Muhammad Ali, by the way, that he
Yeah, that's true.
keeps telling me. But I know that he was very good, very fit, and took a pride in his fitness. But outside of that, as an inspiration, was there anyone that went before you that inspired you?
In 1990, my daddy took me to Croke Park, and it was in the old stand, Croke Park, where you were right behind a bollard, so you couldn't really see. So Antrim were playing against Kilkenny in the senior hurling semi-final, I think it was. And the year before they got to the All Ireland final that I didn't get tickets for, so my daddy thought, she's in date now, I'll take her down to this one. And I remember seeing DJ Keary for the first time, and he he was like lightning. He was all over the pitch. He had such flair. He could catch balls, put them on the hurl, stick them over the bar in the back of the net without a blink of an eye. And I remember dodging each side of the bollard so that I could see him. So he was the first person that I saw that I was really intrigued by. There's a girl called Maureen McAleenan who played for Down and Leitrim, and again she had everything. She was nice on and off the pitch. She was disciplined. She took a lot of hits and still got up, set the ball down, and went about her business. She was fast, skillful, strong. She had everything. So in hurling and camogie terms, them two would be the two people that I first caught my eye and that I thought, well, they're my heroes. So they were who I took it from.
And through a journey through camogie, you went on to become the Antrim captain, and you went on to be the captain of Rossa.
Yeah.
And 5 All-Ireland awards, the Hall of Fame in Belfast City Hall. And again, I have to say, but you wouldn't know this to look at me, I'm not a sporty person. But I was asking various people about you to get a sense of you, and they were saying that you were a great motivator with people. You were someone who, either on the pitch or in the dressing room or in preparation or in training, you kind of pulled people up from their laces, their boots. You inspired them. You inspired them rather than shouted at them. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think from me learning, I never learned really anything from anybody shouting at me. My mummy and daddy were always kind of in the same team. You knew whenever you were doing something wrong, they try to like talk you around. And I got a few clips around the ear, but I'd say nothing about that. But they talked to you as if you were part of a team. So my mummy and daddy and my sisters and I were all part of a team. So if one of us did something wrong, or if one of us needed a wee bit of motivation, there was always somebody around us to help us, get there. So I think I just took that on from that really. And if you're in a team, like there's no one person in a team. So I always believe that if you're within a team, the best you can get out of that team is if you're all working together. So I wouldn't have really known at a young age I was inspiring people or motivating them, but I would have known that you get the best out of people by talking to them, or by giving people the positives of the game, or even work related. I think it's more to do with positivity than anything else, or letting people know that they're good at what they're doing and these are all part of a team.
I'm not going to list everything in all of your achievements, but All-Ireland awards, Ulster awards, the Hall of Fame, Writers, five Writers, or a number of Writers
I think
awards.
I'm the only person that has 5 actually.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Is there anyone, maybe this is unfair, and if it is, please tell me, but is there anyone that is pride of place? Is there anyone that you go, that's the one I thought I wasn't getting?
Yeah, it's easy. It's a question that's easy to me. It's winning the All-Ireland with Rossa. We'd got there, we'd won it in 2008, but previous to that, Jim Nelson had taken us, and we'd been to, I think, 3 All-Ireland semi-finals, always coming close until 2007. We got absolutely hammered. Jim Nelson then retired and had moved on to other things, and we had nobody to take us until Mickey McCulloch stepped in. He stepped in, and at that stage I thought, there's no way we're ever going to win an All-Ireland. Like, Cashel had hammered us. Our time is gone. It's never going to happen. And then in 2008, it all came together, and we won an All-Ireland title, and that is easily my biggest achievement, to do that with the girls that I grew up with my sisters, and with like everybody out of Rossa. And I said it when I said my speech, the day that I said, I didn't know what I was going to say. I had no idea, but whenever I was that proud, I said, we're not only doing it for Antrim and Rossa, we're doing it for West Belfast, Falls Road, and that's what it felt like for me. So it'll never be topped. It can't be topped. So it's that.
And I have to tell you that we have a very extensive research department.
Yeah.
We don't, but it sounds good. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. I was speaking to someone, and I'm not going to tell you who, and they said I was crying. Everybody around me was crying. It was just that motivating, that kind of, like, as you say, it was nearly against all of the odds. It was against a background where the club had to believe in itself, and that's no mean feat. You're currently part of the guilds for Casement campaign, and I have to say, you know, I'm not a GAA fanatic. I have a passion interest in all sports, but I wouldn't be. How important is Casement for the Gaelic fraternity, the GAA fraternity in Antrim?
I think for Antrim it's massive, because whenever there's obviously a lost generation there that have never really ever got to see what Casement looks like, never mind be able to grace the field. For me growing up, I couldn't wait to play for anybody on Casement, and it wasn't even like it was a rare occasion. But being involved with the likes of Jim Nelson, Belfast schools, I had been able to play in Casement a lot of times. So it's a place where people come together. It's a place where on the Falls or on the Andersonstown Road, that you know where it is, when you drove past in the black taxi or you're driving past in your family car, you would look to the left and you'd look in and see a game going on. And most often than not, even if you weren't a GAA supporter, you seen something happening. So you park the car, get out of the car and went in and see what was going on. And I think that creates great community spirit. And there's a lot of clubs in Belfast that have their own grounds. But I think for Antrim as a whole, to have one stadium where it's a stadium for all is, you need it. And I think it shows throughout the country whenever you have grounds as good as the likes of Croke Park, but on a smaller scale for Casement. I think it makes everybody around it thrive. It makes businesses thrive. It creates better for the economy, because there's people coming into the area, and it's a great spectacle as well. So I think it's very, very important that Casement is rebuilt, and I think it's been long enough that we don't want another lost generation. I think for young kids, they aspire to play like their heroes on that pitch, even if it's just the once. Think about the amount of kids that's having them dreams, that even if they got to grace that field once, it could blow people's minds, you see. So I think it's definitely important.
Well, here's our fingers crossed for Casement, and I suspect, I think we'll be okay. You know, I think, and I agree with everything that you've said. I recently was on a trip to Croke. And as I say, I'm not a great sporting person, but the facilities at Croke presented for the immediate community in terms of, you know, meeting rooms and cafes and coffees, spots and all of that. I want to just say this as an observation. For people of my age, GAA was very much in the shadows of rugby and sport. And GAA was something that establishment thought was either a lesser sport or no sport at all. And that was politics. That was not a reflection on the skills of the players. The Hall of Fame in City Hall, I think, was a massively important. Now, it might not have been an All-Ireland award, and it might not have been the Ulster Awards, and I know you've got more of them and you can pay for the house, but to be one of the first women to be in there, to be saying, you know something, we're proud and we're Gaels, and here we are. I think that was an immense achievement. So for all of that, well done.
Thank you.
So I want to just take you, kind of jump you back and forward and all of us here. You're in the middle of this intensive training. You are renowned for your fitness, and I know you're now playing golf, and I'll return to that. What about schooling? How did schooling go? Did it fit in? Was it part of? Was it something that over your shoulder?
Well, it fitted in because it fitted in around Camogie. There was no I wouldn't look back and say that I didn't like school, because I loved it. I went to St Coleman's Primary School, and then I went to St Louise's, and both schools were brilliant. They had really great teachers. I had Eamon O'Feagoin was another teacher in St Coleman's that got me onto the hurling team once I started playing for Scéalta. So I have great fondness of school, but it had to fit around my Camogie. Whenever I got all my exams and stuff, and I did go on to university, but it was a lot of messing about before I actually got there. Camogie was everything. My mummy would be, just go to your matches. My daddy would have been, come on now, you have to juggle both. And nowadays, I think kids are juggling both better than what I could have ever done. I think the amount of pressures and stuff that they're under to achieve at the highest level in sporting and academia and all that is immense. But for me, I just went to school and get out of school, went to training, then probably just did enough work to get by and to pass my exams. But I didn't do too much. It was all revolved around Camogie.
But you were quite good in school.
Yeah, I would say I wasn't bad. I did all my tests, got all my tests, and I just didn't excel. So if I had to put the amount of attention and devotion and commitment into my schoolwork that I did in the Camogie, then I could have did really whatever I wanted to. But Camogie was my love, and nothing was going to stand in the way. So whatever I had to do for school, I got it done, and then I went to the Camogie. But looking back now, it has worked out for me. Like, don't get me wrong, everything's worked out in the way that I wanted it to. But if I had to go back, I would probably try and balance it that wee bit more. Or maybe I wouldn't. I would just do all the same all over again.
I suspect you would do the same all over again. Do you think that, and this is a hard and maybe it's a wee bit of a trick question, but do you think that I know you haven't left the GAA, but you've left active playing. Do you think that it's in a better place? Antrim Camogie's in a better place than it was, or is it okay? Or are we looking to new stars that are coming through? Are there other Jane Adamses on their way up?
Oh, there'll be plenty of Jane Adamses on their way up, and there'll be people that are even better than what I was. I do think that for kids these days, it's a harder balance. So I think there's more pressure on kids to be involved in lots of different stuff. So they also have the pressure of social media, or the look, what way you should act, what way you should get on. So I think the pressures are slightly harder. But in terms of Antrim being in a good place, I think they're probably not fulfilling the potential that they have, because the amount of players that's within Antrim that are excellent players and could be like stars of Ireland are not, it's just not happening for them. So the amount of people that we have, it should be happening. So there might be something wrong, but to try and fix something that you're not too sure what it is, it's very, very hard to pinpoint. So,
well, as you say, I'm a great believer that talent will come through, you know, and you're right, it's difficult. If you don't know what the problem is, it's hard to put it right. Mm-hmm. At the very beginning of this interview, I said who you weren't, and you weren't Gerry Adams' daughter. I don't think Gerry Adams has ever claimed you were his daughter, but people have this perception of you. And I described you as an iconic sportswoman. I described you as a successful businesswoman, and recently happily married. So where did it all go wrong? No. When you were leaving, you talked about university. Had you an idea that when you were going through university, that from a business perspective, that ultimately you would be in partnership or working along with your father, or had you other ideas?
Again, when I went to university, my sole reason for going to university was to play for Jordanstown Camogie team, to play in Purcell Cup, to try and get a all-star within the colleges. I had set myself wee targets, and all the targets that I met, but they were all sporting targets. So after 2 years, my sister Laura after 2 years in university, Laura had bought over Manny's chip shop. Yeah, so Laura bought the Antrim Road chip shop. So after 2 years, I thought maybe university just isn't for me. So I left, and I got into business with Laura. Didn't really know what I was going to love or how I was going to love it, and I suppose I was a bit laid back and in terms of what business I was going to get into. But I knew that if I applied myself the way they apply myself to my sporting life, then it was going to be okay. So I wasn't focused or fixed on what I wanted to do, but I knew that it would be okay, and I knew that with hard work and the family behind me, and that hard work beats everything. So I knew if I did the hard work, that I could achieve anything that I wanted.
One of the things that I said earlier on in asking people about you is what you just outlined. that you're not shy of work, and that if you have a focus, if you take it into your head, this is what I'm going to do. You know, this is what you do. How hard, and maybe it wasn't hard, but how hard was it to be a successful, or is it to be a successful businesswoman at the present time in a male-dominated, you know, grouping of people?
Well, I think there's loads of different factors that makes it hard. First of all, like right now, the pandemic going on is probably the biggest factor that we've faced in the last 10 years. But we're not on our own in that. Everybody in the whole world is in the same situation. So you have to just pull together and get on with it and adapt in the way that you can. Growing up, yes, being a woman in sport and in business, you were always probably looked upon in many people different eyes that you were maybe second class. But I always say it's the Laura who is my business partner, or Laura, I always say to her that even if you're embarrassed about something, if you think it's right and you have to go face to face with somebody, just like a wee bit of hard work or whatever, but you have to face somebody and have a bit of a difficult conversation, just have it anyway. Bite your tongue and have it, because it's only going to be better for you if you actually overcome the difficulties. There's been lots of difficulties. We've had lots of failed businesses as well as successful ones. So nothing's ever been easy. I know that there's been a focus now that after we won the All Ireland, I think my outlook in life changed, and that's when I really started to push the business side of things. So I knew that Camogie wouldn't be paying my bills. Camogie wasn't going to be there forever. I tore my cruciate the match after winning the All Ireland final, and I couldn't play for a year anyway. So I knew that I had to come to a stage where my life had to go in a different direction. And I was lucky enough that I'd already started the groundwork with my daddy and my sister Laura in business. So now was the time to push forward. I said there that we'd had lots of failed businesses, and that's probably what has made us succeed. So the Antrim Road Chip Shop, it's very, very busy, very successful, has been going from the 80s, and it's a very well-known name. Our first downfall was thinking that could just work anywhere. So we bought a shop on the Falls Road that is facing the Culterland, and we put a Manny's into it. We didn't take into effect that the Spar across the road was going to be closing down within the next couple of months and turning into offices. We didn't factor in that there wasn't hardly any walking past trade. So we just thought, this is a good model, it'll work anywhere. Where now you look back and you go, okay, well, we didn't do our research. It just doesn't happen as easy as that. And I think failing in that, we did that for like around 5 years. We did that for, and we had to let it go. We still owned the building, and we had to just say, right, it's not about ego. Just cut your losses and try to get into different things that are going to be successful for you. So that was probably a really hard tablet to swallow, but at the same time, it grew us. It made us be a wee bit more knowing that there is other dangers within the business working life, but that you can overcome them. And if you're able to adapt, work hard, take it on the chin that you might have failed in some things, but learn from it. And I think that probably was the biggest factor in us then changing into a different direction and looking into more things that you had to study before you just thought that, okay, this is a good model, it'll work anywhere, because it doesn't. So it grew myself and Laura and probably made us better for the future.
I want to ask you two things, and then we'll move on perhaps. But the challenge of failure shouldn't deter you, as you say, from doing anything. But it does. And you know, from both your playing years, your training years, and currently your golf years. But I think lots of people are consumed by the possibility of failure, and it nearly hypnotizes them into not trying.
Yeah.
Do you think that ability to raise over that, is it in your personality, or is it something in your GAA years? Where does it come from?
I think it does be in your personality. I think before GAA, growing up with my mummy and daddy and my sisters, there's been lots of different things that you would have to overcome whenever you're just a youngster. So I think that my mummy and daddy had instilled that in us. My mummy was like, she supports us throughout everything and anything, and always looks into different scenarios to help us to get over whatever we need to get over. My daddy is a successful businessman as well, and whenever we were younger, we've seen plenty of businesses of his thriving and other ones not so much. So we've always seen it, and I think that's why it is probably in my personality. So whenever I started playing camogie and in my GAA life, somebody being better than me didn't really give me a wee bit of a fear, but it didn't consume me. It made me go, okay, well, I want to be better than that person. I'll have to do this to be better than that person in it. And then in the business life, there's always a gamble in everything. If you let fear consume you, then you might as well stay in the house. There's no point in even going out. And even stuff like having the chat with you today, Joe, I don't usually like doing stuff like this. I will be full of fear up until I'm right there, and then I just let go. So it's if you can get to this point where you're facing it, then you're in it, and then it's sink or swim. So my view is get yourself to it, and then just let it go, and then swim. And I think that's probably what I've always done.
Tell me a wee bit about this latest, I was going to say fad, but it's more than a fad. Mm-hmm. This latest attraction through golf. So, golf,
I haven't played golf in about 2 years, Joe. So
right. Okay.
I played, and I thought, well, I need to do something. If I'm not playing camogie, I need to do something. So I've started playing golf in Balmoral, and I started off with a 36 handicap, and then quickly came down to playing off 12. And for me, the golf was never a team sport, and I get enthusiastic about team sports, and my thing is team. It's always about team, no matter what way you look at it. It'll always be about team. So for playing golf, maybe just thought, I'll see how good I am myself. So you're only ever competing against yourself, and then if you get annoyed, the ball's it's nearly like the ball knows you're annoyed at it, so it'll take whatever direction it wants. It doesn't matter if your swing's the same or whatever. But for me, golf was just to see first of all, it was to see how fast I could come down in my handicap. And then once I got to 12, I thought, right, well, I could stick at it here, or it takes like 4 hours of your life and daily, and you need to play it like twice a week. So I don't think my business partner Laura would have been happy that I was away playing golf twice a week and she was doing all the hard work. So I don't do it as often, but if there was charity matches and stuff, I'd still like to involve myself in it.
Well, again, for what it's worth, I'm told you're quite good at it. You said something there which is of interest to me. This need to test yourself,
yeah,
or maybe challenge yourself. Is that something that you're conscious of, or is it a sporting thing? And I know the reason I'm asking you is, and then we'll move off because there's other stuff I want to talk about. But you're a bit like that in university.
Uh-huh. I would say that again, it has to be. I have to want to do it. If I decide I want to do it, then nothing's going to stop me. So if I want to get something, I'll get it. If I don't want to do something, I will not do it. And if I focus on something and I know that I want to succeed, then I don't want to come across sounding cocky or anything, but I know that if I want something, I'm going to get it, Joe. And that's the way that I have that feeling. And no matter what I decide, but it's just all about what I decide. I suppose that sounds a wee bit like there's people that go they'll just go through life and they do the best of their ability. But I have to want to do it, and if I want to do it, then there really is no stopping in what I can do. So for me, that's the way. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it, and I'll find ways to do it. And if that way's the wrong way, I'll find another way, and I'll find another way until I succeed in what I want to do.
You're quite determined. As I said earlier on, that you recently had got married. Your beautiful wife, Nikki, who I've known since she was a child. Mm-hmm. Nikki would be hard not to love, so I have to say that she's just that sort of a person. But how difficult or other ways was that journey for you?
Very difficult. So I think camogie again was my saviour, because I just put all my focus into Camogie and probably put out of my head any other idea that I would have had about my sexuality. I didn't really think about it. I didn't like go out and actively seek anybody or anything like that. It just was, I wasn't happy with myself knowing that I was gay. So it was a hard time, and from very early on, my mummy and daddy knew. My mummy and daddy have known probably from I was 17 or 18, and I didn't want to ever talk about it, so they didn't talk about it. But there's a wee story that I won't go into it, but I knew that my mummy and daddy supported me all the way whenever somebody had said, "Oh, do you know your daughter's gay?" Which I was only 17, and I couldn't believe that this ever, like, somebody had said this, because I wasn't too sure myself. And my daddy said, "Is that right? Well, I'll support RG in whatever way." So, and told the person to blow. So from that, and I was there, I seen it happening. So from then, my mummy and daddy didn't say, "Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to think?" Because they knew if I had a want, same as everything, if I want to, I'll talk about it. So my mummy and daddy and my sisters have always, from a very young age, known that I was gay. So I didn't like to talk about it myself because I wasn't completely happy with it. So, but then everything changed going back 3 years whenever I met Nikki, and I think an opportunity to love somebody as good as Nikki and to have that same love given back to you could have been missed if I didn't open my eyes to it. And I think that was probably the first time that I properly accepted myself as who I was and who I am, and I'm glad that I did, because I met the best person in the world. And on top of that, she has a great daughter, Jada, who's a brilliant wee girl, and we all live together. But it's just a proper wee family, and I'm delighted that I've went through the hard bit to get to where I am now.
And I know there's been one successful marriage and several attempts to the same person, I have to add, because of the pandemic knocked your plans off and all of that. So is there going to be a Belfast wedding? Is that something that you're working on? Is it?
Oh, so what we did was 2 years ago, actually 2 years ago this weekend, Nikki and I went away to Vegas, and we sneakily got married and didn't tell anybody. 5 hours later in Vegas, my sister and her husband came, and we didn't even tell them. And so they were ineffectively at our honeymoon, if you like, and staying with us, and we did not tell them. So that's in September. When was it? December, we took Jada to New York for her birthday, and still hadn't told anybody, but we wanted to tell Jada first. And as long as Jada's okay, then everything else is okay. And that's just how it is. And Jada was like, "Well, why was I not there, and why is it not? I want to have a wedding here." So we were like, "Okay, we're off the hook. It's okay." We came back, and then Boxing Day we told our families, and it wasn't because we just wanted to tell Jada first, and we hadn't found the right moment to tell her, because she had just started doing her GCSEs and all that there, and we're probably a wee bit frightened of she may kill us here, so we didn't tell her. And then once she knew, then it was okay, can tell everybody now. So from then we knew that we wanted to have, because Jada's comment was, "Well, I wanted to have it here in Belfast." We went, right, okay then, so we're going to have a big wedding. So we booked the merchant for the 27th of June past.
Yeah.
And obviously we couldn't get married, so we then rescheduled it for August. Again, it was going to be too many restrictions, and we're already married, so we wanted to have a party and all our family there, and both daddies to walk us down the aisle and all. So any restrictions we didn't want to really have. Deal with a few, but then there was no entertainment. So we decided, well, we can't do that, so we'll not do it. So then we'll rebook for November, but then there's still restrictions, so we've put it off now until the 2nd of July next year. So we're just going to go with that instead.
I suspect there'll be people watching this interview tonight, and they'll go, "That's how I feel. That's me." Yeah. Everything that Jane had said, and I have to say that not everyone will get the response from their family that you got, and I know your mother and father, and I really wouldn't have expected anything other than the response. And I know you don't give advice. in general. But I'm going to ask you for advice. So,
Okay.
so if people are watching and they're tormented by this need to be themselves, to be who they are, is there advice you can give them? Is there something that you can say that you found to be the answer to some of your?
I think the best advice that I could do is that anybody who's struggling within their own head, yes, it's definitely a struggle, but look outside that. Like, so the way I see it is we sort of have a choice. It's a choice of being unhappy or it's a choice of being happy. And I'm glad that it took me an long time to actually come to terms with this. And again, like I said, it's probably only over the last 3 years. Even though I've been gay all my life, it's only the last 3 years that I'm happy to talk openly about my sexuality, whereas I would have said, oh, just don't mention it, don't talk about it or whatever. The best advice that I could give is, if you want to be happy, be whoever you are. See the person that you are within inside you. Try and find the strength from somewhere that allows you to be you. It doesn't, the way Nikki always says this as well, the problem doesn't lie with me. The problem lies with other people who perceive me the way they want to perceive me. So try and think of a way that you know you're not the problem. If somebody has a problem with you, that's their problem. It's not yours. Try and pick happiness over unhappiness. And whatever route you have to go down to do that, then I would say do it, because I genuinely did not think I was going to be as happy as what I am. And I would give all my sporting career up to have what I have now with Nikki. And she laughs and goes, there's no way, but there's a lot to be said for real happiness. And Camogie guided me through all my really unhappy years that nobody would have known I was unhappy. I'd say my mummy and daddy would have known, but again, just supported me, and my sisters as well. But nothing beats happiness. So I focused on Camogie to get through everything. And then now my focuses had went into different things. So meeting Nikki, it was just, okay, you have a big opportunity here and it's standing right in front of you. And so you have to let it go. Let other people have the problem and not you.
And I suppose in a way that ability to confront fear, you know, whether it's the fear of being, and I don't know who the person that broke your confidence was, I have no idea, but they're a clown, whoever they may be, or a mischievous clown. And that ability that you seem to have to confront the fears that are in front of you, whether it be on the field, in business, or in married life. And I have to tell you about married life. Well, you'll find out yourself. But I have to say to you that not everybody has that, Jane. I mean, and people get inspiration from others and they get direction from others, and you find that inspiration in many different ways.
Yeah.
So you're married, you're wonderful together.
Yeah.
So do you have plans for the future? Do you have dreams for the aspirations apart from another wedding? Do you have anything in the pipeline?
Well, to be honest, Joe, every day, and I know that it's such a cliche that people all go, aye, dead on, but I am genuinely blissfully happy. So getting up in the morning to go to work, knowing that Nikki and Jada's in the house, or Nikki's away to work, Jada's away to school, that everybody's safe, everybody's happy and healthy, then every day is a good day for us. Obviously with plans in the future to get married, have a nice honeymoon, have a good time when all this pandemic's over with our family, really, and again, just push business to the place where Laura and I want it to be, and be as successful as we possibly can. And really, that's all I have for now.
You mentioned earlier on, and I want to take you back just a wee bit. You know, sometimes I think when you reach a point in your life where you are clearly where you are, and you start rewriting the different aspects of your life. You know, did you ever imagine as a young girl in Somalicas? I have to keep mentioning Somalicas. Did you ever imagine, you know, what appears to be nearly success in everything that you've done? and touch wood and good luck to the
That's
future.
right.
But did you imagine this was going to be this, and this was going to unfold? I know you were keen about Camogie and so on.
Yeah, well, Camogie, probably, I did imagine that I was going to be successful in Camogie because I dreamt about it every night. I dreamt about playing in Casement, and I think that's why I think Casement is so important, because it gave me those dreams. I wasn't too sure and as how successful I would have been in school, but again, I achieved it, and I think I just knew that if I did my hard work, that at some stage I will become successful. I didn't ever dream of. My dreams were filled with Camogie. That's the truth. I was just filled always with Camogie, but I did not believe for 1 second that I would ever be as happy as what I am in my life now. Not for 1 second. I think I knew Camogie would have came to an end at some point, and I knew that would have been devastating for me, and you have to get over it. Come on, you're getting old. But after that, I really didn't know. I genuinely thought that I wouldn't be happy in my own life. I didn't think I would be sitting in my own house happy. I always thought that there's no way there's somebody out there that's going to love me and I'm going to be able to love them. And I didn't think that was going to happen.
Do you find quite often, and this is not you, this is me more than you, but quite often you find that there's this almost dismissal of young people by older people, and you find that young people are all labelled in a certain way, which is unfair and it's not even accurate. But do you find that sport is a liberator for young people? And I listened to you there saying about like the first hurdle that you jumped and won was sport. But do you find that sport can be that liberator for young people if they're given the opportunity?
Absolutely. I think without sport, and I'll keep on going back to this, without sport, I wouldn't be motivated in the way that I'm motivated now in business life. I wouldn't be disciplined. Sport teaches you everything. If it doesn't teach you disciplines, motivation, you meet loads of friends, so it teaches you how to be sociable. It gives you a healthy kick. I think sport, for me, if a young person was coming through and they didn't have sport in their lives, I'm saying get yourself into something that you like, because unless you face it, and it's nearly like a fear. There might be kids out there that I'm not really the sporty type, or I'm not this. Sport's a wide variety of things. You don't have to be the best to be in sport. You can be the funniest, the smallest, the tallest, the best looking, anything you want to be, you can be it in sport. So it has such a wide variety of different types of actions that you can put into place for future life. And I think that for me, sport gave me everything. Sport, again, I don't think that I'm not a very, people look at me and say, you're really outgoing. I'm actually not. I'm quite shy, and I actually don't like doing lots of stuff, but sport brought me on in that. Sport gave me a focus when I didn't want to think about things. Sport gave me an outlet in every aspect of my life. Sport was probably my saviour. And it didn't matter if it was, I also played handball and a wee bit of Gaelic. So me getting out there and releasing my endorphins, or just chatting to people and talking to people, being in a rainy night, it didn't matter. It gave me all my stuff that I needed in my cards and my playing hand for the rest of my life. And if you're not involved in sport, get into music. If you're not involved in music, get into art or dance. So I think something active for kids, whatever it is that suits you, get into it.
I was going to ask you, and two final questions. We're almost out of time, but I was going to ask you, and you mentioned it earlier on, you actually mentioned it in a way on two occasions. Do you as a person need to be setting attainable or even difficult targets for yourself? So is this something that in the back of your head there is this, I need to be doing this, and I need to be doing it not least of all because it's hard? Do you have that kind of drive within your own personality?
I do have it, but I also don't have it. So you can push yourself and push yourself and push yourself, and then your whole life becomes consumed with, you just want to get better and better and better, and then you forget about all the other side of your life where you have to be happy you have to be healthy, and there's a balance. There has to be a balance, Joe. In my camogie life, I probably didn't have the balance. I just went, get this, move on to this. And I used to have visions of, I know I'm going to get player of the match in this, and I know I'm going to do this. And I would have set myself a target of, I know I can do this by doing this, this, and this. I didn't tell anybody about it before it, because I always thought that it would have scuttled me and that it wouldn't have came true. So I always held it in. Sometimes I jotted it down, and but then whenever I achieved it, it was move on to something else. I think I was focused so much on that because I was maybe dealing with other fears in my life, i.e. my sexuality. So you can push, and I do that to an extent, but there has to be a level of push, get to where you want to be, but also have a balance where you're happy as well. And I think now I'm probably at that. So before I met Nicky, I would have been in work 14 hours a day, and it would not have bothered me. I'd have woke up straight to work at 7 in the morning, and maybe sometimes wouldn't get back to 11 o'clock at night. That's not good for anybody. You have to get to a stage where, you know, when you get there, you have to be able to look and say, okay, I'm loving this life, but I also have another part of my life, because that's not sustainable forever. And even younger kids these days, I think they have so much more pressure on them. I mentioned earlier on that there's like social media, so you have to look a certain way. If somebody doesn't like your post, it's nearly like an instant rejection. All that is you're pushing yourself, but even kids don't even know that they're pushing themselves to the next level and next level and next level. You have to have a balance, and I think that if there's no balance, then you're just going to push yourself. You'll not even know who yourself is. You have to know, this is me at my sporting level. I'm going to push myself as far as I can. In work, I'll push myself as far as I can, but also to know that you have to be happy. If you're not happy, nobody wins.
Are there things that frighten you? I know you're a brave person. I also have to say this, and again, came through from speaking to a number of people. You're immensely proud of where you're from.
Yeah.
You never lose that focus.
No.
And you defend it. Sometimes when it doesn't need to be defended, you defend it. But are there things that frighten you?
Yes, and people laugh at me because anybody close to me knows the only thing that I'm afraid of in this life is cats. I'm terrified of cats, absolutely terrified. And whenever I break it all down, I go, why am I afraid of cats? It's because they're sleepy. So that's my thing, right? So I would go, I've been afraid of cats since I was probably about 7 or 8. And there's a wee story behind it that I was feeding a wild cat out at my mummy and daddy's back in Glengoland. And it was a wee ginger one. I couldn't wait to go home from school every day to feed it. And then when I was feeding it, I looked up in the corner of my eye. There was another ginger cat sitting up like on the shed. And then I looked further up and there was another cat. And I just thought, all these cats this wee cat here is playing me. So I felt that I got tricked by that cat. So it's terrible. I am petrified of them. I won't walk down the street with them. If I'm sitting in a restaurant, I was recently away with my sisters a few months back, and we were sitting at a restaurant, and there was 2 cats, and I had to get up and leave and go and sit at the beach while they ate their thing. I'm petrified, but that, I think it's a wee bit more deeper than what I actually think. Whenever now I'm a wee bit old enough to look back and go, well, I just didn't like to be tricked, and that cat tricked me, so I don't like the trickers.
That's self-analysis.
I know.
Tell me this. This is the very last question, and I have to say, for anybody that's just joined us, Phil is a joint production between Falcha Fears to Hear and Phil and Fumble. So only for that you wouldn't have done it. You done it because of who it was for. And I know you said early in passing you're shy, and I know you're shy, and I know you don't promote yourself, and I know all of that. So for all those things, thank you for being my guest tonight. But let me just ask you almost the last question.
Yeah.
How do you relax? You come home at night, you take the shoes off, do you open a bottle of wine, what do you do?
But I do numerous different things now. So I would come home and just relax in my own house. I know that once, I never even liked sitting in the house. That's how bad it used to be. It used to be just work, or sport. now I can come home and there's two lovely people in the house waiting for me that are happy to tell me about their day. And I'm happy to tell them about mine. I love just coming home and relaxing. We're actually getting the house all done up at the minute, getting a new kitchen and stuff. And I like being part of that, whereas I never would have wanted to be part of any refurbishments or anything. I just wanted to work. Where now I just like having a nice, happy home to come home to. I also like spending time with my nieces and nephews, who Laura, my business partner, also lives next door to me. So her kids run in and out. And the youngest one loves Nicky more than he loves me. He goes, my best friend's Nicky. Couldn't wait to go there to school this morning to come home and share his bun with Nicky. So we like having them in the house as well. And I enjoy spending time and seeing my mummy and daddy as well.
That's us finished. You'll be glad to hear. And I have to say, for giving me that wee insight into you, and it's been fascinating. And I think for me, you've answered a whole lot of questions. I think that certainly in terms of your iconic, it has to be said, your iconic sporting career, and it is amazing the things you've achieved through sporting and through determination and through all of that. Your business successes, your marriage, and congratulations on all of that.
Thank you very much.
I think you're an inspiring individual. I think people who will listen to this program tonight will identify with you. And on behalf of Scéalta, can I wish you all the success and all the happiness. And you're right, Nicky is a melter, but apart from all of that,
no, she's not.
no, she's absolutely not. For all of that, Jane, for being my guest, thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe.